All right. All right, Jonathan, you mind if we start a little bit earlier?
Let's rock and roll.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. This is our Leveraging Market Stats to Boost Your Business series. We do this every single month, and we're not just going to go over the official statistics that we're releasing to the media today, but we're going to go get analysis. I mean, that's what we're all about here, is how we could use these stats to boost your craft and your business. And before we get into the introductions, I saw a question in the chat about these slides. And yes, I will, if you guys could type your email into the chat box. Afterwards, I'll collect all the emails and I will send you this PowerPoint. You should get the complete slides. It will come in a link. Once you click on the link, you could download the entire PowerPoint. So yes, we've been doing this program for over 5 years now. We haven't missed a month. And what makes it successful is the different Miami leaders that come each month to give their analysis. They are the boots on the ground, and we have a great leader with us today. We are fortunate. He's our 2024 Miami Residential President-elect, Jonathan Alfonso. Thank you, Jonathan. I know you were at the Inman Conference, so thank you so much for making time for us today.
No, thank you, Chris, for having me on. I'm excited. I really enjoy that you put this on every month, and and especially not and you and your entire team and everybody at the association that puts this data together. I think it was one of the things that when I discovered that you put all these data sets together and that we had all these graphics, they're so useful. When talking to consumers or just to create talking points and just continue to add value, even you sent them to me before the presentation, and I started doing some research on little things that stood out to me. So I'm very excited to go over them today.
Oh, excellent. That'd be great. And so one of the first questions I have for you, Jonathan, is, why is this so important? Why is it so important for realtors to be the market expert? Some could say, hey, I just want to sell a house. Why do I have to be an expert in data? But could you put into words about why this is so important for people in this profession?
One of the things that I always talk about with everybody whenever I have these conversations is uh, I view our industry and specifically being a realtor as relationship-based sales. And for relationship-based sales, it's not, I've seen some people come into our industry and they come from very traditional sales sector where somebody walks into some sort of storefront and has to buy a product. There's intent there. This is a relationship business. And, listen, especially given everything that's going on, you need to be constantly providing value. And if you're not bringing that value, you can't, it's very difficult for you to stand out from your competition. And that value is in knowing these stats and knowing the market. And, one of the things that ends up happening is, all of us that transact heavily, we always have this conversation. There's so much business out there. There's so many sub-markets. There's so many different markets. There's commercial, residential areas. Even you can go, for example, I'm in the Miami-Dade County market. So, I always tell people I tend to work 836 South, and then you get into all those different sub-markets. If you don't understand the stats at all the different levels and how they're coming into play, how are you going to convey that to a consumer? Because ultimately, you need to bring value to them. And more than anything, you need to be able to bring them certainty, right? They're coming to us for that certainty that the opinion, the advice that we're giving them is going to put them in a better position. So, I think having this is, you need to be looking at the data.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I love that. We are relationship-based sales. That's awesome. I wrote that down. Excellent. All right, so let's move on here. Take a look at our agenda. Once again, thank you for everybody who's joining us on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube, also on X now. It's called X, and Facebook. So if you guys would like a copy of these slides, I said at the top, but write your email in your text box, whatever platform, and we will get it to you. Here's a look at what we're going to go over today, this next hour or so. And then, so we also have our future leveraging webinars. Again, we haven't missed a month, and we have our chairman-elect will join us in June. So you guys could already register for that. And so this is another top question that we always get. Is this being recorded? The answer is yes. It would be on MiamiRealtorsLive.com once we get it downloaded. And I told you about how we will send you this PowerPoint presentation to you probably later today once I get down all your emails. So this is the one website I'd like to put out there. If you guys could bookmark one website, it would be this one right here, sfmarketintel.com. Jonathan was talking about the different graphics that we do. You want to find them, this is where you get them. And we will be showing that throughout this program here.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah, sure.
I can't emphasize enough. I have that bookmarked as one of my top 10, um, one of my top 10 websites because the monthly reports on the single family and all that, sometimes I just don't have the time to go in and start, going into the MLS and aggregating everything myself. So sometimes I'll just go in there just to look for the monthly trends market wise, because you guys do such a great job of breaking it down by all the different segments. So there's so many amazing graphs and charts. So I can't recommend that enough. I probably go to that page like, 7 to 10 times a month.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yes, and we're constantly updating. Actually, the stats should be at April 2024 stats should be there already. So let's Jonathan, I'm going to go over these four, actually three graphics, I believe, and then I'll ask you a question after. But this is just a quick look at the stats that we were releasing to the media. Again, these are official stats from the SEF MLS, Miami Realtors MLS. Total home sales are up. 1 million and up condo sales are also up significantly. And we didn't have enough room to put it on this slide, but also single family sales are up and condo sales are up. So it's an incredible month. And let me move over to Broward County. Total home sales are up 6%. Palm Beach County at 5% up. And Martin County, here's a look at some stats in Martin County. But as you can see, our three main counties, Miami, Palm Beach, and Broward, had a great month in comparison to last year. So, Jonathan, when you look at Miami, one of the, when looking at the data, we see the cash buyers have increased double digits in comparison to last year at this time. Also, as you could see, 1 million and up condo sales have really taken off. What's your take now as we are currently in May, but we're looking at the April stats, but what is your view of the state of the market right now?
There's so much to unpack here because you've done it by counties. And as I was looking at this, I was thinking of all the different things. Obviously, I look at things from my perspective. I tend to be, right outside the Gables. So I've traditionally been more of a single family guy. That's most of our business and most of my agents, that's where we transact. What's amazing to me, for example, is to see that figure of the 45%, 1 million and up condo sales. And that correlates exactly with what we're seeing, right? We're getting so much migration to South Florida, and they're coming from dense urban areas and they're used to condo living. I remember, I mean, let's be very frank, right? The native Miamian was like, I'm not going to go move to Brickell downtown. They kind of shunned away from that, especially what happened through the last downturn. And now those areas have completely revitalized and turned around, and you're seeing all those people come down. So it's, look at all the new projects. One of the amazing things the association also does, which, I think most people may not even be aware, is they do these river tours where they showcase all the coming projects. And I, being a single family guy, I was like, all right, let me take that tour. And I went on it. And I felt like a tourist in my own city. I was like, oh my God, like you see all your friends posting about all these projects, and then you're on this tour just looking at building after building after building go up. And you're seeing that demand. So there's a lot to unpack there. I think the most important thing is, we still have a lack of inventory. People are still coming, even with this limited inventory, even though it's slowly climbing up. The velocity is starting to pick up a little bit, which is good. And I think the most important thing is, depending what county, what market you are, you need to look at that, because then, for example, as you go into Broward, right, I think one of the stats, and you may not cover this, but for example, talking about the migration numbers, we have people moving up into Broward because they're looking for more affordable price points, and then you see that in the numbers, and that's putting pressure. So it's really looking at that data and understanding how it affects your consumer and kind of extrapolating from there what you need to do.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff right there. Lack of inventory. Yes, inventory is increasing, but we will show you that it's still not at the historical levels. We will get into that. All right, so let's talk about another hot talking point, which is always mortgage rates because they impact home sales so much. And as you can see, it's a little unclear what the Fed is going to do, but it appears that if there are going to be Fed cuts, it'll be later on in the year. So as of now, rates are at still 7%. But Jonathan, really impressive to see all the jump in total home sales when rates are at 7%.
Um, that's the most interesting dynamic is that how strong, especially in South Florida, how strong our market has been given these rates that we have. There's, a lot of talk about the pricing and what it does. But at the end of the day, a lot of people talk about it, the 5Ds. You're always going to have people making moves and they're going to need to make those moves and they're going to have to make those lifestyle changes. The important thing that, I tell agents that work with us is, I tell all my agents, you need to kind of keep a pulse on that because while we're looking at this chart over 30 years, I keep a little widget on my home screen on my phone, which kind of shows me how rates are doing daily. Because one of the interesting things is we also have a lot of intra volatility month to month. So as much as, especially in a market as Miami, where it's gotten very competitive, we're at much higher price points. People are definitely there's definitely at price points that they probably didn't think they would be at and that the numbers would have gotten that high. But at the end of the day, they need to monitor the rates and the rate situation because they could get an advantage. I've had several clients in the last couple of months where we've kind of been able to time it with their lender and the rate locks and pricing changed dramatically. So sometimes the consumer gets so focused on, well, is the price of the home going to go, can I get them to come down $20,000? And yet you tell them, hey, go meet with your lender and get an update. No, I don't want to talk to him again because I did it, 4 months ago and I don't want to get that. Well, we need to know what that rate is because at the end of the day, you need to know your payment, right? And you need to understand that payment and correlate it back. I'm not a big fan of that, that line that some agents were um, distributing, marry the house, date the rate. I'm a big proponent of you analyze the situation in the moment, what's your budget, what's your payment, and what can you afford, and is that the lifestyle that you want, then you make the move. But that being said, this is obviously something we're strongly watching because if we're this strong at this rate, I'm rooting for gay. I'm rooting for low 6% rates. All that pent up demand. I mean, I have a database that is so strong that, I'm hoping to be able to take December off, if gay's prediction comes true.
Yes, we'll see if it comes true. She has faith in that number. And so here's a look at maybe some ways that realtors could get creative. Any of these I think you mentioned some, but are you seeing more of these? I know the New York Times had an article the other day about assumable loans, but are these becoming more popular now, or should they be?
I will have to be honest here. I don't have a strong pulse. I mean, we are seeing some of my agents, some of the deals, we are seeing some of the buy down. The assumable loan stuff, I really don't see much of it. I see, a lot of chatter of it, a lot of chatter about the possibility of it. I have yet to see it. We have a title affiliate too that does a lot of closings. We don't see much. I think the most important thing, what I suggest to everyone is you need to be talking to different lenders and knowing all the different products. My price point is just outside conventional, so we do a lot of jumbo financing. So understanding what a lot of the non-QM products and also educating your consumer to talk to their lender because aside from these, I know for example in the last 2 weeks, I think it's UWM, which is United Wholesale Mortgage, which is one of the big broker shops, started offering a down payment loan at 0%. And I think that gets them up to $15,000. The other thing is on the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of professional loan programs that are out there that are available. And, should you be marketing to some of those? For example, we do a lot of work with doctors. The doctor loan programs are amazing and the opportunities they give, But I think, it all comes back to what we said at the beginning, which is you need to know all this stuff and you need to research and you need to it's constantly moving. The way I always describe it to consumers is, you know, banks are no different than Zara. You know, they can have different product at different times, and you go in and you think they're going to have XYZ product, and you come back next month and they have a different product, and you need to see what they have because maybe they have something enticing for your consumer, and you need to have that information because that's the value you bring the consumer. At the end of the day, we're their relationship broker, and we should be, introducing them to lenders that can give them opportunities they may not know exist.
Excellent. Okay, great. So let's move along and talk about some of our fundamentals that make Miami different from a lot of different markets. And we're talking about our population, international migration, the new companies moving here, and so forth. So let's take a look here at population. This is a graphic that our design team put together fairly recently here, looking at population, and you could see you mentioned that at the top, all the population. So it appears that it will not stop, and these are future home buyers, right, for Miami real estate.
I mean, this blows my mind because given all the pent-up demand we already know is there, and all these other slides showing just how Miami has become the epicenter of let's even just say with the world, right? We always like to say Miami is global. This to me just showcases just the possibility of what can happen with your real estate investments. I mean, this amount of people moving here, although I will tell you, having had to drive from the beach all the way back to just outside the Gables, I'm very, very curious to see how that pans out for us traffic wise.
Yes, yes, yeah, we're feeling the traffic. Definitely, we're seeing that. All right, so Jonathan, here's the two new graphics that we updated here. This is international migration, one of the key factors that makes Miami different from a lot of other cities. Take a look at our international migration in 2023. We're almost topping 2017, our record in 2017, and that puts Miami #1 in the U.S. international migration. This is a new graphic that our design team put together yesterday. But take a look at #1. Miami's #1, and then Broward's #4. So that's a lot of international residents that are moving here. And we're not even talking about the domestic side that we've seen a lot. But that is really what makes our market so unique, right, Jonathan?
Well, it makes it unique. And so this is one of the stats that I had seen it before, but preparing for today. So I looked up Harris County, Texas, right, which is where Houston is. And Harris County has close to 4.9 million people. Miami-Dade, I believe, and by the way, please fact check me. I did it really quick in preparing, and Miami-Dade, I believe had 2.9 or 2.7, and Broward has like 1.9 or 1.7. So a quick math that I did is between Dade and Broward, we're the equivalent of Harris County, Texas. So if you really want to look at it that way, we have probably twice as many people coming internationally than the second place county, which to me is amazing.
That's great. I like that. No, I think your math, your checks out. Yeah, twice as many people. That's uh, fair to say. All right, let's talk about some of the companies. I know this is one of the main wants from our members is what companies are moving here. We try to put it in two graphics. You know, these are some of the world's top companies. You're talking about Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, all these new companies that are moving here. Let's move over to some of the feeder states. What are the states that are purchasing here? When we talked about international, how about domestic? And across the data, Jonathan, it's always in the top three. It always seems to be New York, California, and New Jersey. Is that what you're seeing also that are moving here?
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're seeing. And one of the things we have done, which I recommend to everybody watching this, and I recommend to all agents is, one of the biggest pivots we have had to make, and we have made since 2020, is we're networking a lot more with agents outside of Florida. We're trying to find, going back to that previous slide of those companies, we're trying to find who are the individuals, who are the players who can make introductions from people that are starting to see their clients relocate over here. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win because most of the time you can work out referral agreements, and those people are leaving their cities no matter what. They're not going to convince them. So those agents are more than willing to have a partner locally that can, kind of guide them and help them understand. I mean, and I don't know, like, I mean, when I look at this slide, I even think about, one of the projects I go by all the time is now, that no, new Lowe's Plaza, um, in, in the Gables. And, it's crazy for me to think that like Apple's going to have Apple's going to have corporate headquarters in there, and what's going to happen in that area. I mean, right now, if I want to get a juice at Gable's Juice Bar, it's pretty easy, but I'm wondering once all those people come and you have that all in there, am I still going to have, what's going to be the feel, because there's just so many relocations happening. But, the main thing is, I would tell people to focus in on that next slide and where people are coming from, and look through your Rolodex, look through your friends, and start to figure out how can I forge some relationships with people that are outside of here, and use that as another source of business, because they're definitely, we see no slowdown.
Yeah, no, and there's some great points there. You're right. We need to add Apple into this graphic, and also Microsoft also has they want to be in Miami as well. So these are the world's top companies. All right, so Jonathan, let's move on to luxury. So there's always been a question of how to define luxury, and our great chief economist, Gay Croriton, said one way to define it is top 5% of sales can be defined as luxury. And so before we used to say that 1 million and up is luxury in Miami, but that's no longer the case. As you can see, according to this research, for condos, it's 2 million. For single family, it's 2.7. Jonathan, let me show you ultra luxury, which is the top 1% of sales. To be ultra luxury condo, it needs to be $6 million. And on the single family side, 7.3 million. And we've seen an increase in the ultra luxury and obviously in the luxury, but this is what our market is has becoming because of all the migration, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is, as we go over the luxury slides, you start to see how kind of ultra, especially on the ultra luxury, right? The numbers have come down because a lot of those very, very record-breaking numbers have kind of had to stabilize a little bit. Obviously, a lot having to do with rates, um, but it also doesn't show the pressure on the low end of the market, because when you have that much going on in the luxury market, the price of land, the price of everything, what I always tell everyone is, especially on that, and I saw someone saying segmentation in the chat, that low end of the market has so much pressure that, for those people who talk about, well, are we going to see a correction, or is Miami, and Miami's due for a correction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody that lives here knows, and has seen the evolution, especially of Miami-Dade County, Broward, we've basically we've run out of land to build. We're always having, conversations at the county level about extending, the development lines, and what can be done. And we're running out of land. And so, it's only, especially, I always look at things from a single family market, because that's where I tend to focus. But on the single family market, you're seeing so many infill, development, spec homes, et cetera. But yeah, it's amazing to see, just the demand that it's put on, the luxury and ultra luxury market, and how it's completely redefined it.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, so let me move on to the next. This is another slide that actually from our chairman of the board, he wanted to get this number, and this is from the last 2 years. This is residential and commercial. It's really incredible that our members have transacted $68 billion in from 2022 to 2023. All right, Jonathan. So let's look at let's have some fun here. We could do some trivia. We'll see if anybody here has our experts in our Miami Global, right? So we're gonna have some questions, and if you guys could type them in the chat. By the way, thank you for everyone who has joined us. A lot of people here on this Zoom, and I'm sure on LinkedIn we have quite a following there as well. So thank you all. So if you could write in the chat your answers to these questions. What is the top foreign country purchasing in South Florida? How many total countries purchase real estate in South Florida? And what percentage of Florida global real estate sales are made here in South Florida? And I can see the chat is already blowing up. Thank you very much. We will see who is the winner a little bit later. And let's get on to some stats. These are official stats that we're releasing to the media today. Median sale price. Before we get into the media sale price, we should remind everybody here that Miami ranked number one in the U.S. in price appreciation. This is according to CoreLogic. This is throughout 2023. Miami was number one. So Jonathan, let's move here let's go over these stats and I'll ask you a question here. April 2024, prices continue to rise. Now, Miami single family home prices have risen for 12 plus years consecutive. That's Miami-Dade, Broward, similar story. Palm Beach, again, across the board, median price increases. And you mentioned, Jonathan, at the beginning, the inventory is starting to rise, but it's not at that level, and it's some supply and demand when you're talking about prices, right?
Yeah, and I think, supply and demand, and I think it goes back to a conversation that's been had for several years. I'm one of those that I was birthed in the recession. I see Denora in here, so I'm gonna use one of George Guerra's favorite lines. It's like born in the boom, like grew up in the crash. I think George always says. But
Right.
I was born in the crash, and I remember, unfortunately, due to how long it took us to work through that backlog of foreclosures, we were probably one of the last states to pick up our development side, and start bringing, new fresh inventory. And, obviously 2020 has, put napalm on that, kind of inventory crisis, if we want to call it that. And I just think, a lot of people that want to talk negatively about Miami and the fact that, we've in the last 3 years, we were always on the map, and now we are definitely number one. A lot of people don't understand that there was some underlying currents just in our total market with, construction and development and bringing on new units. We were definitely behind, and now you're just going to continue to see that. And every month that we have high rates and people are delaying those decisions, those are more and more people. Even going back to your migration numbers, look at also over the last couple of years, we got 54,000 people from international migration. I would not be surprised in the least to see that break a record next year. I believe 2017 was the highest year. I would not be surprised in the least if next year we break that record, just considering with the amount of demand and people wanting to relocate here.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so that's median prices. Here's a look at historical numbers, and you could see the incredible price appreciation, and really, actually, since COVID 2020, it hit a new level, as you could see, almost jumping off the chart. But we also have these stats for Broward and Palm Beach, and you could see the tremendous price appreciation across the board here, also in Palm Beach. Jonathan, want to get to this slide here. You talked about the inventory, still lack of inventory, and yes, it has been rising, and we're going to show you the stats that it went up again, but it's still not right at the historical level, and that's going to put upward pressure on prices because the supply is still not where it should be, right?
Yeah, and this is one slide that I think is obviously very important to see the global picture. Obviously, you need to break it down by, everyone needs to go into their submarket or wherever their clients are looking at, and look at, inventory levels in those markets. But that being said, this I always want to look at this in conjunction with the rates, because if we're staying at these numbers, even with 7% rates, I'm extremely concerned for inventory levels if we start to see rates trickle down. So I'm very curious to see, whoever you have on 6 months from now. I'm very curious to see how the market reacts over the coming months. But we have a lot of, we're traditionally entering now, the summer slowdown season. But I'm of the belief that ever since 2020, we've broken with all traditional trends, and not just Miami, I think globally, with everything. So I think, it's going to take us probably 5 to 10 years before we can start to see new cyclical patterns. But as long as we keep having, listen, we had the variables of rates going to historic lows. Now we have rates going to near 7, which they hadn't been, in 15, 20 years. So I'm curious to see how the cycles normalize, over a 5 to 10 year period. But I'm watching this very quickly. I'm sorry, very closely, because the market can start to move very quickly. And it's not like it's going to go down or anything like that. I'm just saying in certain submarkets, you could start to see a lot of inventory come online, and what would that do for certain sellers or buyers?
Right. No, great points. Okay. And also wanted to remind everybody, if you would like this PowerPoint, if you could put your email in the chat, and I will tabulate all those emails and send them to you. Just wanted another reminder there. Here's a look at how our Miami real estate compares to other global cities, and you can see how much more value you get in Miami in comparison to LA, New York, all the other big cities here. It's a difference, and another reason why we're seeing that ultra high net worth individuals move in here. Jonathan, I wanted to ask you about here. You had mentioned that a little bit earlier about how, prices are rising so high. Are we going to have another crash? You mentioned a little bit there, but there's so many factors in the data that the answer it's a whole different ball game, correct?
Yeah, it is a completely different ballgame. I love to get the data. I love to get the stats. I honestly, it's 2024. I try to be very careful with the news, and always want to go back to the data. But I also want to understand what I am hearing day to day. Some people may not know my background, but I actually started out as an attorney, and I worked from '08 to 2014, doing a lot of foreclosure related work. I ended up assisting a lot of investors. I remember from 2009 through 2012, all I would do was watch families, unfortunately, be distraught because they were losing their homes. And these days, I'm with people that are distraught because they're trying to figure out, you know, their pricing, et cetera, because inventory is so low and they're frustrated with trying to find the product that they want. And it's a completely different conversation. I tell everyone with our database now is up to 14,000 contacts. If even 5% of that database, transacted, I'll be in Bali, in January, relaxing with my family. It's just a reality. The amount of pent-up demand and the amount of conversations I'm having around people that want to get into the market, people that are looking for opportunity, it's just not out there. And you see it in the loans. Every time we do a transaction, I always tell the number one rule I tell any buyer, I'm like, if you are talking to your lender and they are not annoying you with requests for documents, something is wrong and they are not actively working. Because I did 3 loans last year, and I remember even the last one was my banker that had access to all my documents. And he said, "Oh, this is going to be quick." And I was like, "Why would you lie to me?" And by the way, at the end of it, he was like, "You're right, because once it hits underwriting, the guidelines are so stringent. These underwriters have their requirements. They're looking through everything. It's a completely different ballgame. We're not in 2008 with they used to call them the ninja loans, right? No income, no job, no asset. And these days, lending requirements are very strict. And I see a lot of deals fall apart, close to the end because, they're being so tight on some of their parameters. So I think, anybody that wants to do that, in my opinion, they're hanging on to, 2008 memories that just, I'm not seeing it in the market.
Yeah, no, that's great. Incredible analysis. I mean, being an attorney, I didn't know that. So that was excellent. Great to hear that story there. And then hopefully one day we could get you to Bali there.
Hopefully. I got 2 little kids, probably not happening anytime soon.
All right, so why buy a home now? Here are some points I put down here. Jonathan, any other ones here that I missed, or what else could we add here?
I one of the things that I always say is it's very specific to that specific person and that specific consumer and their needs. You'll see some, there's even some of these influencers out there who will talk about, I've seen it. There's influencers who will say like, "Oh, this is why I rent and you shouldn't buy." And then, there's some guy who has made millions of dollars and, he just rents his home because he refuses. He has all his money tied up in whatever it may be. But for the average person who is going to have to put a roof over their head for their family. If the payment makes sense, for a lot of times for them, it's between, either buying a home and having a stable place to live for the, coming 5 to 10 years, as opposed to renting and all the friction that comes with the turnover, the moves, the impact on your family, the impact on your career. So that's always one conversation that I have, is that, a lot of people, you're buying your home because it gives you that opportunity, and it kind of becomes like fixed savings. And in a market like Miami, where we are not like the rest of the country, where we have this inventory issue, we don't have as much opportunity to build. We're not, a lot of these cities in Texas, for example, they're sprawling metropolises. So they have so much land available everywhere, and you have all these new units. Even look at a city like Orlando, it just keeps growing out and out and out. We don't have that opportunity here in South Florida, especially as you get closer to Miami-Dade. So, if you have an opportunity and it makes sense with your financial situation, all of these things that are listed here make absolute sense.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we have the Everglades on one side, the Atlantic on the other. Especially on the single family side, what an investment. And when you look at the historical price appreciation. All right, closed sales, we mentioned at the top, increases across the board in our main three counties, but we'll take a look here. You can see a graph going back to 2022. Big one to look here is Miami condos. This is Miami condos' first positive sales increase since 2022. So condos increased, and also when you look at Broward, same story over here. You see the plus signs across the board. Here's a look at Palm Beach. But this is a great sign for the market here, especially on the condo side, because we're starting to get more inventory there on the condo side, and it could be because of the regulatory changes, right? That the state made. But what's your take, Jonathan, on the condos? We're getting more sales there.
The condos, I think, there's a lot of micro stories, I think, going on there, depending upon what you're talking about, Dade or Broward, and different price points. Because I think, especially as the single family home market has taken off the way it has. Additionally, I think there's so many stories, right? In the condo market, number one, you have all the insurance issues that may be going on. You have the requirements in certain buildings with reserves, possibility of special assessments. You have that going on one side. The other side is, you also have a lot of affordable condos comparatively to some single family homes. So you tend to have, in some markets, you have pressure there that's allowing for it. I also think this is somewhat of a byproduct of kind of carryover from 2020. I think for approximately, 18 to 24 months there, you had people, afraid for to some extent of, the condo market as a result of, fear of being in crowded spaces, et cetera. I think, we've definitely moved back to urbanization, and people are okay being in, more densely populated areas. So, there's a lot of sub stories in there, and, I'll keep returning back, right? Figure out what's going on in your local market. Go figure out what's going on in the buildings. What the one piece of advice I will give to everyone out there is, do your due diligence on, whatever properties you're either looking to, put your client as a buyer in there, or any listings that you're trying to get. There's a lot of moving parts right now in the condo market, and I definitely recommend that, everybody become very acquainted with what's going on in that specific community.
Yeah, that's great advice here for all our members. Great stuff. And then you mentioned the local, the niche. I mean, that's how realtors really get great at this profession, is being great at your specific market. And one way to get that data is matrix. A lot of the data that we have is backward looking, but this, you could set it up, right, Jonathan? I don't know if you use this, but you could set it up for the last 7 days of your specific market. This is a great tool that our members have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so mine is customized, and another big advantage, and I would recommend that you either take one of the amazing classes that the association puts on. Plug here, as a leader, it's once you get involved in leadership and you start to spend so much time at the association, you realize that the association puts on 2,400 classes, and now in the role that I'm in, we've learned, a lot of people will say, oh, I want a class for this, and you realize there's probably already a class for it. You just don't know that that material is being taught in that class. But I know that there's one of the instructors we have will help you understand how to customize all your matrix and do all of this. And it's extremely important in my opinion, because for me, what I look at a lot is I actually look at the I keep a close pulse on the active with contract and pending sale for certain markets, because I want to see how certain things are being absorbed and what's being absorbed and how. And that gives me a much, going to your point of trying to kind of predict where we're heading, gives me a good feel for what's going on, as opposed to, closed listings. We already know what kind of happened there. So that's something I'm always keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and that's great. Great. Thank you for the plug on our trainers. I do have a slide later about how our members could get info on our great Miami trainers. Here are some more tools that we have for our members, as these are free. Are you guys using SunStats? I know there was a question in the chat about getting more segmentation. SunStats allows you to do a lot of different things. I could show you there. I know Kate in the chat was talking about she wanted more, 2 million and up stats and less than 2 million. That is not on there, but there's a lot of more available there. This is a look at RPR. Are you guys using RPR? Again, a free Miami service. Here's a look at SunStats, how you could create these charts and these infographics. Really, I created these in a couple minutes, really easy. And actually, some of the charts in this PowerPoint are from SunStats. Any of these tools that you use, Jonathan, or do you want to talk about?
I'm actually, so it's funny when going through all of this and realizing SunStats, I started to mess around with it a little bit, but um, it's almost crazy to me. For some reason, I'm a huge IMAP guy,
IMAP,
and
okay.
IMAP is one of the ones that I just started with 10 years ago, and I tend to do a lot of data analysis through there. But this is something I want to start utilizing a lot more, because this is something that we honestly get a lot of questions about this, because these are the kind of graphics, at the end of the day, we live in a very social media driven world, and one of the things we struggle with a lot is, how keeping that cadence of being able to have 3 posts a day going. So these are the kind of posts that allow us to keep that cadence and, continue to provide value and give information to our consumers, and honestly start conversations, because every time we post one of these, I'll get 1 or 2 DMs of, is that what you're really seeing? And then that to me is a lead, because that always leads to the next question of, well, why are you looking at it so closely? And so yeah, I'm excited to start using it.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Here's a look at new pending sales, the best indicator of future closed sales. And you're seeing here total pending sales are up in Miami. They're down in Broward, down slightly in Palm Beach. Let's move over to dollar volume, sum of all sale prices in time period. This is also an important metric. And these stats right here always blow my mind when I do this. 2.2 billion in Miami-Dade, 1.5 billion in Broward, 2.3 billion in Palm Beach, and these are existing home sales. There was a question in the chat: Are these including new construction? No, new construction is not included. So these numbers will be off the charts if in new construction, but really shows you the power, right, Jonathan, of our industry.
Yeah, and it's just these large numbers, and you start to it's actually funny. I was having this conversation at Inman with someone. It was more of a government individual, because they were like, do you think they were wondering, will the property tax base continue to increase? And I was like, absolutely yes. And this is, perfect example. And that's not even getting into the additional question of how many people have suppressed taxes due to homestead. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to see how the city just keeps, shining in so many different ways.
Definitely. Okay. All right, months of supply. This is an important indicator. And historically, here at the association, we look at it as 6 to 9 months is a balanced market. Less than 6 months is a seller's market. More than 9 is a buyer's market. We're going to look at the county level, but you could do this for your specific market, neighborhood, and here's an example of how you guys could calculate it. Again, you'll have this in the PowerPoint. If you put your name, your email in the chat, I will send the complete PowerPoint to you. But that's how you could calculate it. And so what is a month's of supply in Miami-Dade? So we're seeing an increase. We're up to 6.6 months. So we're in a balanced market, at least on the county side. For total, single family is 4.4 months. So that's seller's market. And then condos, 8.9 months, 8.3 months. Let's move over to Broward. Overall, it's at 5.8 months. And in Palm Beach, 5.5 months. So this is what you were talking about a little bit earlier, Jonathan, about how inventory is slowly rising, and we're almost getting to where we want a balanced market where it helps the buyers and helps the sellers, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to. I mean, everyone who was very active in 21 and 22 knows that um, I'm one of those people that was of the opinion that yes, they were some of our 2022 was our best year in all metrics. But it was a very difficult year, to be moving in that fashion and to have to transact in that fashion. I'm a firm believer that, it is very healthy for us to go back to a more stabilized market. And the one thing that I do with this is and this is just my personal preference. Um, I use the 6 month metric language, but I like to break it down to the consumer as to number of homes. So for example, going back to your previous slide where, there was 200 and 200 homes available and 75 are selling a month. And so, you only have 2.2 months, but really what I like to do is I like to say, well, let's say we need 4 months, right? That's 280, that's 300 homes. I like to tell the consumer, by the way, we would need another 300 homes to be at a stable market, and we're only at 200. I like to put it in something that they can feel, because 6.6 months, you can always see them doing that math in their head, and they're like, what is this guy talking about? And that's language we use. But I like to put it in the consumer's language to say, listen, we need 300 homes, and these stats are obviously county-wide. There's a lot of sub-markets that have a lot less inventory. There's also some luxury price points and ultra luxury price points that I don't want to call out, but I was doing some math on some, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of inventory here when you look at it compared to the velocity. So definitely need to break that down, but I'm all for. I would like for us to be in that to stay always in that 5 to 7 month range.
Yeah, no, that's great perspective. Interesting perspective that I think realtors could use in terms of putting it in the consumer. I like that. That's a great job there. Okay, here you talked about 1 million and up. Overall, it's at 12 months, but in speaking with I know some brokers in the area, this is 1 million and up. It takes a while, right? Especially when you get in the uber ultra luxury, that to sell those properties, it is normal for it to take some time.
Yeah, and even 1 million and up, you have to break it up. One thing I always suggest, and as you decide on your farm or where you're working or for certain people, I tell my agents break down those price points. At least like for us personally, our team, we like to be in that 1 to 2.5 price point. That's our sweet spot where we'd like to be, and there's a lot of velocity. You'll see a lot of transactions happening. Inventory is still muted, but as you go higher and higher, you'll start to see more supply and you'll start to see the velocity go down. So it's you definitely need to break it down.
Yes, definitely. Okay, just taking a look at the chat. There was a question there. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, and it will be on MiamiRealtorsLive.com once we get it downloaded. Okay, here's a look at different price buckets. And you can see how, what you were talking about earlier, how it could vary whether you're in a seller's market or buyers. Even you could do it by price bucket. And so here's a look at months of supply of different rate ranges. All right, let's talk about some of the hot markets. These are based on months of supply. the lowest months of supply. Jonathan, any of these markets that you'd like to talk about that stand out to you in Miami?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. So, look at the single family, the ones with the lowest, right? Um, with the lowest supply. Miami Gardens has a huge advantage being, close to Brickell downtown, close to 95, close to so many expressways, great for, traversing throughout the county. Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay. I mean, when you look at price per square foot, the product that you could buy there compared, to other neighboring areas, Palmetto Bay is one neighborhood, for example, that we've been sending a lot of people to because, look at the price of construction for single family home. If you wanted to do an infill lot, I mean, listen, every contractor, everybody has, their own metrics, whatever. Right now the number I hear the most is $300 a foot. Well, if you look at the replacement cost for a product in Palmetto Bay, good luck buying the land and building what you can get over there. I think average price point in Palmetto Bay, last time I checked, like 2 months ago, was about 1.1. And that's been rapidly climbing. Same thing for Color Bay, right? The amount of the price per square foot that you're paying. So, you're seeing all these different markets still have high demand. Then you have Hialeah, right? In the heart of the county, accessible everywhere. So, it's none of this is surprising to me. And then, obviously on the condo side, you have a different conversation because those are all areas with, affordably priced, condominiums, that, most of the ones that the communities that I'm thinking there are definitely under a million. And they're going to be desirable because they're price points that, obviously that under $1 million price point in Miami is going to be extremely desirable. And I wonder, how much longer it can last. In that previous slide, we had inventory by like under 200K price points. Those are very difficult now especially Miami-Dade County.
Yes, yes, definitely. Um, yeah, great points there. And I love how you broke down Miami, all those neighborhoods, excellent stuff. Oh, so here's a look at Broward. Again, these graphics are on sfmarketintel.com. You should be able to get these are first quarter. And also we have actually on sfmarketintel.com, we have zip code and city reports for every single city in South Florida. You could find that on sfmarketintel.com. Here's a look at Palm Beach.
I mean,
All
when you
right.
were showing those slides, the number one thing I was thinking is, if I'm an agent in Broward, I'm looking at those slides and I'm saying, I'm door knocking, cold calling, using Vulcan, Mojo, whatever it is, and I'm putting a geofence around Sunrise, and I'm trying to grab some listings in there. Clearly, they're in need of inventory. That's what I would be doing if I saw these slides.
Yes, Sunrise, definitely. All right. Active inventory. Let's see how many listings at the end of the month. These are official stats from the SEF MLS. And you can see year over year, taking quite a jump, especially in Broward. A lot of those are on the condo side. But this is good news as we're getting towards the historical levels, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the same conversation, right? As long as we can go back to more of a healthy market, I think it'll definitely help. And especially also if we can start to get closer and depending upon how the rate situation plays out. But yeah, I'm all for inventory continuing to rise so we can continue to stabilize.
Yeah, great. No, I'm responding in the chat. There's a question about when we could get the presentation. It'll be later this afternoon. All right. So let's move on here. So what we've talked about, I know we're getting close to 3 p.m. So here's a little update, a recap of what we've done so far. Mortgage rates are projected to decline. We hope that that holds true because that's going to provide this is going to only benefit our market. And Gay also forecasts our sales to rise. All right, let's get to the global study answers. What was the top foreign country purchasing in South Florida? Colombia. It's Colombia. I know that was one of the immediately someone answered Colombia. They were correct. There's been so many comments in the chat, but I don't know if I could find that person who did it. Let's see. Let's see who said it first. I know there was several people who said it first. Right there, Haley Alonso, Colombia, and basically Maria a lot at the same time. So you guys are on it. Colombia is number one. Okay, so what is the second question? How many total countries purchased real estate in South Florida? It's 52. I'm not sure if anybody had that. 52 countries, but that's a great stat to remember. And another stat to remember, this is arguably our favorite stat from our CEO loves, is nearly half of all international purchases are in South Florida, and it's Miami. It's really incredible that when people purchase in Florida, almost half go to Miami. And look at the difference, Jonathan, between number one and number two. Really shows the power of our global market.
Yeah, I think we had some of our leaders and some members, they were all in Toronto for a conference last week. And they were all saying how I guess the word is probably overwhelming because they just were, nonstop having a line of people asking about the market. And the an interesting comment, that someone told me is, and they were telling me these were deep conversations. These were people who, clearly are studying the entire real estate landscape as to different opportunities in different areas, and they were having deep conversations, not because we go to other events where, listen, Miami has a certain, swag or aura, whatever it may be, and people are like, oh my God, Miami, it must be so cool. But they were telling me that no, they were just having conversations about submarkets, this, and it's very interesting just the amount of interest, and this is amazing to see.
Yeah, and you mentioned Canada. Canada's right there. They are tied for the fourth foreign buyer in South Florida. So Canada loves Miami, especially Broward County. Tools and resources. We talked a lot about these. I'm going to recap them really fast. SunStats are using that as a free Miami service. So many graphics that you could create. We have co-branding material. This is free on our website that I know we recently, our design team, we worked on improving our flyer on why Miami, but we have so many different other flyers there that you could co-brand. Photify are using that. It is a free Miami service. The design team here, we basically put all templates on there that are free to use for our members, whether you're at an open house or listing or different graphics that we have, and you could easily add your picture, your company logo at the bottom. So these are members that have taken advantage. This is free. Miami Photify only available on your phone. We have market reports. These are on sfmarketintel.com. These look at what you could get when you get there. We have our infographics, our videos that you're going to see when we post them on social media. I mentioned this earlier. We have zip codes and city reports, every single city on a quarterly basis. sfmarketintel.com, RPR, trainers. This is Jonathan, you talked about the trainers. This is how, if you want more information, this is the email them there. Also, you could go on our website to look at our classes, but these are the people that can help you with every service that we have. We have a 220 plus products and services. All right, Jonathan, I think these are some of the last slides here I wanted to ask you about. This is cross-market demand. Realtor.com puts this together. It's basically what markets are looking at our markets, at our market, at our listings, Miami listings. And again, I mentioned at the top, New York, California, New Jersey, but how can realtors use this data right here? How can they leverage it? That's the name of the program.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think as you dig deep into some of these, as you look at these companies moving here, can you market in those areas? Can you, reach out to agents, for example, for me, I'm in a coaching program. So, for example, for Cook County, Illinois, I became friends with a realtor over there that I met through a coaching program, and him and I actually we were texting yesterday. And he sent me three referrals, and you cross market. And by the way, you can do that in so many different ways. Like one of the ways we did it is we actually did posts on each other's websites to kind of create that SEO traction. I mean, there's so many different ways, but I mean, listen, you don't need to get into any of that. The simplest way is figure out who's there and start picking up the phone. Some of you are big brokerages. Can you start reaching out to some of your counterparts at other franchise offices? Whatever you need to do. That third cousin you haven't spoken to in Loudoun County, Virginia, give them a call. But I think, I think you definitely, for me, that is, um, my client base used to be a lot more institutional investor type. And I have seen a complete shift. And we're leaning heavily into, doing those reach outs and getting those referral sources.
I love that tip right there. That's excellent tip. Yes, use all your sources right, even that third cousin. All right, so taking a look at Broward, we're seeing similar data. You see in New York, New York loves our listings. Cook County again. Here's a look at Palm Beach. No surprise. Look how many New York counties are on that list. Wow. And so here's my information, Chris at MiamiRE.com. I will be sending the PowerPoint to everybody who put down their email. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Phenomenal job. I think you helped a lot of members today. And thank you so much, man, for your time and for your service as a Miami leader.
No, thank you, Chris. It's honestly an honor to serve and to help. And the only advice I would give all our members that are watching right now, as you see all these different links, I know one of the things that happens with our association is we just have so much going on that a lot of people don't realize all the different tools. So follow on social at least, so I mean, in addition to these awesome presentations with Chris every month, we have city spotlights going on where we interview local leaders such as it'll typically be a mayor and a vice mayor. We have all these business after hours. We have, the river tours. We have so many amazing opportunities. So, follow on social and, look on the website, look around because there's so many opportunities that you may be missing. I will tell you, obviously it is due season, so everybody is getting their dues. In my opinion, the amount of value that we get as members, is I guess the word would be invaluable, but the reality is, it's just a lot of people don't realize because there's so much going on. So follow us everywhere and make sure you get involved.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And one thing before you go, I saw this great comment here by Freddie Salazar. He wants to know, how can we get in coaching with Jonathan?
I guess we'll have to discuss that. We'll have to discuss my I'm not there yet. I'm not trying to do it, but feel free. I will tell anybody my Instagram is Jonathan J. Alfonso. Happy, feel free to give me a follow, send me a DM. I'm an open book. Going back to what I said at one point in this conversation, I tell everyone there's so much business in this town. I tell everybody all my ideas because I can't even exercise like 2% of them. So, seeing somebody else succeed in this market, there's more than enough opportunity. Even going back to what I just said about all the different things the association puts on, it's really a matter of execution. So if anybody ever wants to ask me any questions, by all means, reach out.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everybody who's on the Zoom. A lot of people on the Zoom and I'm sure on social media. So thank you so much again. And we will see you next month. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Chris.
Jonathan.
Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
joining.